All right, welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy that picked Phil Baroni to defeat Evan Tanner. I am here to talk about Ottman Azaitar fighting Matt Frevola. This is the fifth fight of the night, and I'm really excited about it. Azaitar's making his return to the UFC after 2 years. He was 2-0 in the UFC, had a lot of hype because he's got a record of 13-0 with 10 victories via knockout, 8 of which come in round 1, 2 of which come in the UFC. He's a damn exciting fighter, and he was suspended, as I said, for 2 years for smuggling potatoes injected with steroids into Abu Dhabi, or something like that. And there was COVID involved too. It was potatoes, COVID, and steroids. So you mix and match those three and conjure up your own little tale. But anyway, 2 years later, here he is, and I'm sure he's been drug tested. So he's fighting Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola 9-3-1, 3-3-1 in the UFC. He's a little more tried and tested, but he's failed some of those tests too. So that's what makes this a compelling matchup. Is, as I said, Frevola's got 3 losses, 2 of which come in round 1 via knockout, and Azaitar's got 8 out of his 13 wins being first round knockout, and he's also got 2 other knockouts, one in round 2, one in round 3 as well. So he's a bona fide finisher, a bona fide knockout artist, and Frevola, that's his primary weakness so far. Now, his other loss was a decision to Arman Tsarukyan. I don't think that's a path to victory for Ottman Azaitar. He's certainly not inclined to fight that way, even if he had the skill. But no one, not too many fighters have that kind of skill. And even in that loss, Frevola looked good. He took that fight on very short notice, and I don't remember what it was, but it was very short. And that was one of the most dangerous fights that you could take, because it's a guy that it's really tough to beat, and he doesn't have a name. It's not like you're gaining anything, you're beating some star. Tsarukyan, now he's a headliner, but back then that was a really shitty fight to take, or tough fight, and he lost, but he still looked good. I don't know why I'm harping on that fight. Doesn't really matter here. The other 2 losses matter, though, to Marco Polo Reyes and to Terrence McKinney in 7 seconds. So I question Frevola's chin. I know you do too. It is something. It's not nothing. A guy, again, we've seen him knocked out twice in the UFC here out of 7 fights. And out of whatever he's got, 13 fights overall. It's not nothing. Now, Frevola, if he doesn't get knocked out, he's a workhorse. He is a workhorse, and it's really tough to outwork that guy. We saw him have strong third rounds against Luis Pena, Jalen Turner, not so much Arman Tsarukyan, but still, he's a guy that battles. He'll fight for your money, no doubt about it, if his chin doesn't fail him. Now, Frevola is more of a wrestler, of course. He's pretty basic with the striking, but he strikes his way into wrestling, into takedowns. That's the realm he wants to be in. And Azaitar, again, his record speaks for itself. This guy's a knockout artist. He wants to be on his feet. That's where he wants to be. Of course, in this fight, I'm sure he knows Frevola's been knocked out twice in round 1. That's what he's going to be looking to do. And sometimes that doesn't go his way. He's had a few fights where, again, he's had to fight longer. He's won every one of them, but he's had to fight longer and harder for a few fights. There's just one fight he had against Kevin Koldovsky, I believe. Guy's a solid regional fighter, good workhorse, and seems pretty well-rounded, or, somewhat anyway. But Azaitar was knocked down by him in round 1, even though it kind of looked like there was a little bit of momentum or a misplaced step or something, but he was knocked down, and Azaitar was hurt. And then he was taken down and bulldozed against the cage. Oh, no, he's the bulldozer. But whatever. He was really being worked hard in round 1, and he fought his way out of that position in round 1, fought his way up to his feet, and then even took over round 1 with some really nice work on his feet, some great flurries. Azaitar's a guy who, that's what he wants to do. He wants to pin you into a corner like Vader from the WWF. I don't know if you remember Vader. Nothing MMA fans love more than a pro wrestling reference. But anyway, that's what Azaitar wants to do. Whenever he gets someone against the cage, even if he's riding them, like he was riding the other tough third round fight he had against Alejandro Martinez, instead of just riding or looking to throw in hooks or whatever, he brings them back up to their feet and starts pounding the shit out of them. Hits them with knees and punches on their way up too. But he wants that moment where you're pinned against the cage and you have to eat his standing strikes, his hands in particular. And he's shown that he can fight hard for 3 rounds. Again, that Kevin Koldovsky fight, he took over that fight. By round 3, it had slowed down, but he had already taken over. He took over round 1, and then round 2 was outworking, out-wrestling Kevin Koldovsky, who seemed like a bigger, stronger guy and a wrestler as well. And against Alejandro Martinez, he was just outworking him and beating him up on the feet. That guy was a solid win at that moment. He's not UFC level, but still a solid win from the regional level. And he was able to survive and eat those Azaitar strikes. His chin was holding up. And then in the 3rd round, Azaitar just whacked him with some hooks and stabbed him with a right kick, his back kick, to the with a front kick, I should say, to the body. And that's what knocked him out. So Azaitar's got striking power. He's able to have the volume and the power in round 3, even though that was largely a winning effort. In a fight against Frevola, I assume if they go 3 rounds, he'll be definitely taxed more, cardio-wise, and I'm sure it'll be an up-and-down fight. Because Frevola, again, if his chin doesn't fail him, I trust his work rate more. The guy that's able to take round 3s off of Jalen Turner and Luis Pena, that's a guy that I trust more than Ottman Azaitar, as good as he's looked, and when he's had to look good in round 3. But, if I'm forced to give a prediction for this fight, I am going to go with Ottman Azaitar. I'm going to go with Ottman Azaitar winning via round 1 knockout. He's a, he's a guy that I believe has that knockout power that very few fighters in his division have. It's just his record speaks for itself. Just the 10 knockout wins out of 13, and of course the 8 first rounders. And these guys aren't heavyweights or anywhere close to it. So I really trust his power here. And Frevola, I don't trust his chin. So I think round 1 is where it'll happen. That's round 1 is where the chin and the power, if it's a matter of chin and power, it's usually settled by round 1. Not always, but usually. We've seen guys with bad chins like Julian Erosa getting knocked out in round 3 to Julio Arce. That fight's fresh on my mind because I just rewatched it. But generally speaking, I think Ottman Azaitar's power is going to be too much for Matt Frevola's chin. And if that's the story of the fight, it's going to happen in round 1. I've played it at plus 350. I guess you can call it more than a sprinkle, 2 sprinkles. But I've also played Ottman Azaitar at minus 130. I don't trust him to win a decision over Matt Frevola because I do trust Frevola's work rate. And again, Frevola's a guy who's been hurt in every one of those fights. Jalen Turner, Luis Pena, he's been hurt. When he's not finished, he doesn't stop fighting. He's able to fight harder for 3 rounds. So I do trust Frevola more to win a decision. But Azaitar's never been bested, and he's looked good when he's had to, fighting deeper into fights. So there's something on the money line there. Of course, it doesn't just cover the decision and the round 1 knockout, because it covers every knockout in all rounds. So, and you could attach it to parlays on BetUS.com. So I bet the money line at minus 130. I actually played it at even plus odds and close to even odds, but now it sits at minus 130. I still think there's some value on it, but my pick is he gets it done round 1 knockout. And as for hedging with Frevola's at by decision is plus 200. I do think he's most likely to win a decision if it goes there, but I couldn't even hedge with that because the odds aren't too great, and again, I don't know what to expect from Azaitar. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, trusting Azaitar's power is too much for the chin of Frevola. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.